Vai Newman, and I was born in Bermondsey, 1931. And at that time it was a completely different area to what you're looking at now, with all the modern buildings and apartment blocks, and you can walk along the river, and there's nothing sort of holding you back to sort of walk where you like and do what you want. When we were children, we were never allowed to go near the river because it was so terribly dangerous. And I lived in a street, Cherry Garden Street, and which is still there, and funnily enough I live there now, but it's completely different. They were little sort of terraced houses, and there was one block. And it was quite, well, it was poor. I mean, we were all poor, we had nothing, but we could play in the streets and do all the things that children love to do without any barriers, really. We didn't have any fear. But we were never allowed to go near the river, and at the top of the street where I live, Cherry Garden Street, is Cherry Garden Pier, where all the boats were. But they weren't pleasure boats at that time, it was all working, and there were all the wharfs which brought all the produce in from overseas. And it was very, very working area, and the pier was to enable the people that worked on the barges and so forth to get access to their boats. But as children we were never allowed to go because the river was so terribly, terribly dangerous.
Why was it so dangerous? Because
the currents, it's such a very, I mean even now, I mean of course it's still the same, the current's still there, it's so dangerous. And I had a cousin that was at, well there were lots of boys that used to get over onto the sort of water edge and climb on the barges and dive in the water to swim in the summer. And there were quite a few killed because they were sucked under between the barges and the current. And I had a cousin that was actually drowned, and he was, what, about 13? Very strong swimmer, but it made no difference. Even people that worked on the river wouldn't go in the river by choice, it was only if they fell in. And even then they were subject to picking up diseases and things. It was an entirely different way of life. I mean, even now you don't go in the river, but you can walk along and appreciate it and see all the lovely buildings and of an evening, all the lights are shining. But we never saw that side. All we saw were these dirty walls along the road. And of course when the war came, I was 7, 8. And then it became even worse because we had all the bombing and all the terrified. You didn't know what was going to happen in the morning. Though as children you weren't aware of the danger because you, as a child you don't see the danger. You see the excitement, especially in the morning. You wake up if there'd been an air raid and you wake up and something had been bombed during the night. You wake up and then you went scrambling for pieces of shrapnel. You collected shrapnel and things like that. I thought it was fantastic.
So were you not scared?
But
really?
Not really, no, because we didn't realise the danger. I mean, our parents, looking back, they must have been absolutely terrified.
I guess it was probably better for you to.
Well, my parents anyway. They hid the danger. We had what was called a Morrison shelter in my house. We lived at that time in St James's Road. The house doesn't exist now, and we had a cellar. And the Morrison shelters were put in the cellar. It was a massive, big, sort of flat bed type thing, but made out of steel, and it was all very, very strong, the top of it. So if anything collapsed on top of it, the people inside this bed, or a square, would be safe. So my mother and I, and the dog and the cat, slept in there of a night.
Was it just you and your mum then?
Yes, I had no brothers or sisters. My father, he was a lighterman, always worked on the river all through his life, and my ancestors. So he was, when he wasn't working, he was a warden, which walked the streets and sort of whistled and gave notice to danger coming and so forth, but he wouldn't come in the shelter.
So he wasn't away fighting in the war?
No, he was exempt, but because of the work that he did. It was exciting for children because it was sort of, you got up in the morning and a horrible smell, looking back, that smell.
The smell of burning?
And sort of musty, dirty, because buildings were being smashed. So there was this sort of dust lingered in the air, and it's a smell you don't forget, you know, it's very, I don't know, looking back now, it's sort of quite sort of spooky, you know. Though, as I said before, when you're a child, you don't see the dangers. You don't. And your parents say, you must do this and you must do that. And oh, but they were right. We should have been more careful.
Were there like specific rules and regulations that you had to?
Well, of course, you had to stay by their side, or they had to know exactly where you were, and you couldn't wander far. Well, we never used to wander far anyway.
Yeah.
Because lots of things were forbidden. I mean, even the park, Southwark Park, there were parts of that we'd go. They used to have the, the big balloons there. And they had aircraft in there, guns in there as well. So that part where the oval is, we weren't allowed to go to. So there was only a small part of the park that we could use. You went to school. But of course, if there was an air raid, you were put down into the shelters and that. And then straight from school, you had to go home. But
so it's very strict routine.
Oh yeah, and because lots of children were evacuated as well.
Were
so
you evacuated?
I was for a while. My father had an accident, and I wanted to come home. I was very homesick, and I came home really to the worst part of the bombing.
Really?
But I'm still here, and that was it.
Yeah.
But you don't realise dangers when you're a child, and you certainly don't listen to your parents, which is so stupid. Because they do know what they're talking about, you know.
Yeah, I know. But...
And the fear that they covered up was amazing. And there was lots of things that we missed but didn't realise that we missed, like the ice cream and the man coming round the street with the ice cream sellers and things like that. They gradually disappeared because people didn't want to bring their sort of carts round the street. They might be in their shop and do it as best they could. You'd have a water ice. But you never had the fruit and things like that you had. Lots of sweets and things. That's probably why I've got good teeth. I didn't have a lot of sweets as a child.
Were there anything, like, did you make things to make up for not having sweets?
Yes, I suppose. But then you never had the sugar to make the sweetness. But it was a different world, an entirely different world. So I suppose it's what you've never had you don't miss, do you?
Exactly.
Because we were so young. Lots of things that we perhaps had as really young children, we gradually forgot about. So we gradually, we became accustomed to the rationing. We just lived by what we were given.
Just adapt.
Yeah, and well, I was fortunate as I was an only child, so probably I had more than most because I was given more from my mother and father. They probably deprived themselves to give to me. I mean, we had milk and things like that, but cheese was rationed. And all meats, dairy produce was all rationed. I think you had 1 egg a week or something like that.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It really is so completely different to, you know, life now. And that the whole area, I mean, God, even if my father woke up now, he wouldn't know the place. And to look at the river, because I look at the river every day, I overlook the river. And to look across there and see all these buildings and things.
It's become
It's
quite
absolutely unbelievable. It's lost a lot of its character.
Yeah.